Hey guys, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsors of the channels, Dueling Guard, Sleeve Chief, and Imperium Duelist. Check them out in the description box down below and use code SACO for discounts on all of them. Hey you guys, NAWCQ here. Today I am coming at you guys with a how to beat Lunalight video. I did want to say one thing here. This is going to be the same shirt that I am wearing in the past 3 how to beat videos. I am recording these all in one session. As I have said earlier, I do know how to do laundry. I know this is not good evidence against me, but I promise you, that's the best I can show you guys though. As far as the video, let's just go ahead and hop into it. The main thing with Lunalight is that this deck does have some major weaknesses, but it can play through a lot. A lot of the low impact interactions, the deck can play through a lot of it. So you really have to know where you're going to interact with them and how you're going to combine one hand trip with another to try to diminish the board and really keep them off of playing the game. Because we would rather keep them from playing the game rather than fight a huge uphill battle to try to defeat 2 Lagers. You know, Lager is a phenomenal boss monster and one of the most insane cards that I have ever read. So it is definitely something to keep into consideration about how you're going to play this deck and what strategy you should use when playing against it. We want to try to stop them from getting to Lager rather than trying to defeat him. We're going to start off with Imperm here. I also have Valor down here. I want to talk about both of these cards. Imperm is different into this deck than it is into most decks because of Silverhound. Silverhound is a spell trap negate. I'll go ahead and pull it up here since this is a new deck here. We can read through all of these cards that we need to. And it specifically says when a spell or trap card or effect is activated on the field, you can banish this card from your graveyard and one Lunalight fusion monster, negate the activation. So a lot of the time, they're going to be able to negate this Imperm because of how detrimental Imperm is to their line of play. Then we are going to try to Imperm if possible. You know, and Valor is going to bypass that Silverhound sort of negation on Imperm. That's why Valor is a little bit better into this deck than Imperm is. But the main target for Imperm or Valor is going to be this new card, right? We're going to look at Gold Leo. This is the most phenomenal card that I have ever read when it comes to synergy with its own archetype. So having Imperm and Valor to go ahead and hit this guy is going to be phenomenal. Like I said, they can play through the Imperm a lot of the time because they have a spell trap negate. That's why Valor is a little bit better. But this is going to be the target for it. If you Valor or Imperm this, a lot of the time they have to have two engine cards to play through it. So demanding them to have a 3-card specific hand just to play through one hand trap, and that is just one of the many hand traps you could have in your hand, is really, really important versus this deck. Moving on, we have Impulse. Impulse is another unique card because once again, this is a trap card versus the deck, so they can still Silverhound this if they need. I think that because they can Silverhound negate this, a lot of the time it's better to just Impulse on the Silverhound really early into the turn. That way they don't have a fusion monster in grave. What I've seen a lot of people do is they hold this Impulse until they activate Wolf or Polymerization, and they try to actually fusion summon into a fusion monster that's going to be progressive towards the line of play or progressive towards summoning the Liger. If you do that though, just know that if they're intelligent, they know what they're doing with the deck, they are going to be able to negate your Impulse at that point in time. So using the Impulse early is probably just better, and just shooting it on this Silverhound is probably going to be your best chance. Ash Blossom is really detrimental to the Lunalight deck because if you Ash Blossom their Silverhound, it does make it really hard to play through, and you do need some more combo cards. A lot of the time, you're actually kind of demanding several engine cards as well. Kind of like Imperm or Valor on Gold Leo, you are kind of demanding several engine cards to play through it. Unless you play Lunalight Fusion, which I personally think you are supposed to play because Ash Blossom and Impulse are everywhere in this format. And if they know how to interact, they're going to be stopping this card here. But because of that, I do think you are supposed to Ash Blossom the Silverhound. I don't think you're supposed to be holding it for anything besides that. And honestly, impulsing at the Silverhound point is basically going to be as effective as Ash Blossom. So this is obviously the card we should be hitting with these two, if possible. Moving on, we have Droll. Droll is unique in the fact that it can stop their turn, but they have so many different independent, unique one-card combos, or one-card extenders, that a lot of the time they can still get to wherever they need to. They can still get to a Liger. I've seen them even get to 2 Ligers through Droll, which is ridiculously strong. You know, it's very, very powerful if they can get to 2 Ligers through it. But with the Gold Leo combo, the one card that we just looked at earlier, if I could type, we could probably pull them up here. The Droll is not going to be as effective. There's a really cool combo, which I'll probably show off before Nats, that involves Dugaris. So where you can actually get to SP, a Spell Trap Negate, and Liger through a Droll with just your 1-card combo. So that is something to be aware of, that if they know what they're doing, they are playing that combination of cards. That Droll is not going to fully stop their turn if you just have it on Gold Leo. But any other hand trap is going to very strongly diminish the amount of board presence they can put up through it. The other thing with Droll is that if they do start with like Tinky, being able to Droll them there is good. It's still going to leave them with something. They're able to get to a Baguska as well as a Spell Trap Negate, so it's going to be kind of hard to play through their board there. But Droll does have some like valuable impact into them from being able to God board you and just unfair you out of the game. With Baguska, Spell Trap Negate, IP or SP, Nib in hand, 2 Laggers for whatever fun reason they decided to print that card. But it is definitely worth playing. I think Droll plus a hand trap is almost always going to fully trade with the Lunalight board, so it's definitely something you should be keeping in your deck. Moving on, we have Fuwalos. Fuwalos is interesting, to say the least, in this deck. If you are playing like the main hand traps that are getting played in this format, which would be Droll, Fuwalos, and Prolia, if all 9 of those in your main deck, and you just draw Fuwalos, you are not in the best spot. Because I will be honest, anytime I play Lunalight and they activate Fuwalos, I just take my little gear shifter here, I put it into the highest gear I can, I just keep going, because there is no reason for me to stop. Most people that are playing hand traps right now are playing Fuwalos in their deck. They do not have room for other hand traps. They're playing those set 9 that we just talked about. They are not playing things like Bestials or Nib to really try to stop me from getting to where I need to be. So what I'll do is I'll just full send to my board, and I'll create a board that is absolutely unbreakable. Double Liger, Baguska, an IP or an SP, Nib in hand, Spell Trap Negate. That is not breakable for basically any deck. Unless you start with Lava Golem, then you set 5 Labyrinth cards, you are pretty much dead with that if it gets to that point. So they're just going to full power through your Fuwalos. I think it's worth keeping in, obviously, if you have other hand traps or other things that you can use versus them. It's definitely worth keeping the Fuwalos in because you have a chance of drawing into those cards. But really, it's going to be really tough if you're on that set 9 card engine package into this deck. And that's why I think that, honestly, Lunalight is positioned pretty well to do good at this event. Then we have Prolia. This card is horrible. Don't side it in versus this deck. The main draw you're going to get, because you're only getting 1 draw, is going to be their normal summon. They can technically get, you can get like 1 more draw if they decide to use the effective Perfume Dancer to go ahead and bounce something and special summon it. But a lot of the time they're just using Perfume Dancer to reset either your Wolf or like your Tiger. That way you can like reset your not once per turn extenders. And they're just not even going to use the summon from hand effect. Especially like if you start with Prolia, you activate Prolia, they're just not going to play into it. Moving on, we have Ghost Ogre. I think Ghost Ogre is also phenomenal into this deck. I talked about this in the Vanquish video, but I think this card is like very, very slept on into this format. If you Ghost Ogre their Wolf, it is going to make it so hard for them to get to Legger. They basically have to use the effect of Masquerade to add back Poly and discard. But usually, they are not going to be wanting to commit that. And a lot of the time, they'll add back the Poly before they really commit their Wolves. They won't even know they need to discard until you drop the Ghost Ogre on them. But it is a really neat interaction. You can also use this to trade kind of like fairly into their deck. Like try to stop their 1-card combos. One cool thing we can look at here is Lunalight Masquerade. If we are just trying to stop them from playing the game, if I could type here, we can use the Ogre on this. This is a continuous card, but it does have to activate on the field. So it's not just like when this card is activated. It already has to be face up on the field to activate the effect. You can Ghost Ogre here. It's going to stop a full line of play with that. So Ghost Ogre does have like a widespread coverage with this deck. It's not just one thing that you can Ghost Ogre. One thing I did want to mention though with this is that Ghost Ogring on Tiger seems like it would be a really good thing. But Tiger has a random hidden effect here that says, if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can target a Lunalight monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So if you Ogre the Tiger to try to stop them from playing the game, or try to stop them from extending, Tiger is going to get destroyed. It's going to activate again, and it's just going to special summon whatever they want to special summon anyways. One thing to mention is that this effect here does not negate the effects of the monster summons back, while the pendulum effect does. It's not going to matter most times anyways, because a lot of times they're just using it to revive like Kaleido, which sends for a cost, and that's the only effect you really care about. But it is something to keep in mind. If they did impulse you, they can't use that effect of Tiger because it's a monster effect that's light. They can still use the pendulum effects if they impulse you, obviously, because it's a spell card when it's a pendulum. But if you like Detonator Pop or you Ogre their Tiger, they're not going to be able to use that effect if they impulse. So something to look out for versus that matchup and that one specific instance. But most of the time you're going to be using this either to stop them from playing on Twilight or Lunalight Masquerade, or by using it on their Wolf and like trying to cut them off of their Wolf. One thing that is important to keep in mind is that on Wolf, if I cannot type, if on Wolf you do Ghost Ogre, it's going to the extra deck. The only way of really saving things from the extra deck once they're stuck over there is with Black Sheep. Black Sheep. There we go. And it's not even like the good effect of Black Sheep. You have to fully fusion with Black Sheep just to get the effect to add something from your extra deck to your hand. And honestly, if you're Ghost Ogreing them that late into their turn, they're probably not going to have the ability to revive Black Sheep and activate Polymerization just to fuse with the Black Sheep to get to a Perfume, and then use that to add back the Wolf just to Wolf and Wolf fusion. They're probably not going to have the ability to do that. Moving on, we have Bell. You can technically Bell the effect of Wolf to fusion summon. It's okay. The only issue with that is that it still leaves it on the field, so they can like bounce it back and reuse it. Wolf is a soft once per turn for whatever reason. Bell does have a few other interactions, like there's a few effects that you can Bell, but it's just so low impact. Once again, as I've said in all of the previous videos about how to be, I don't like Bell. I don't think this card is very good. Even if you're playing Vanquish Soul where you're trying to reveal attributes, you don't need Earth that bad that you're going to play a card that's that terrible. Moving on, we have Nib. It seems like Nib would be phenomenal versus this deck, right? Because it's a combo deck. You know, like you obviously you want to try to nib the combo deck. You want to try to end their turn in them with nothing. But they are almost always going to be able to end on at least one Liger through a nib. I think it's every combo in the deck you can get to at least a Liger through nib. And even nib in combinations with things, if they have the extender, there is not very many like hand traps you can have to punish all of their extenders. They're almost always going to be getting to a Liger. I personally take out nib versus this deck post side. And that's not me trying to psyop you or trick you into taking out Nib versus a combo deck. It is simply the fact that they are always getting to their scariest threat, which is a Liger, through this interaction that it's just not even worth keeping in. Here is what is really good versus this deck, though. It's Bestials. If you look at a lot of the combos that people are doing right now, they're doing combos that like send Wolf to the graveyard and then try to add it back. If you Bestial the Wolf right there, it makes it nearly impossible to get back. You can technically do like some weird combos with Emerald Bird, then use Emerald Bird to special back your Wolf to the field, and then you can make like him 7 to add back your Wolf again. But it's just so many tedious steps. It's not realistically happening. Also, Emerald Bird is not a good card, and I don't think people should be playing that in their deck. I've talked with a couple people who do like that. Don't listen. Emerald Bird is bad. We're just not going to play that card. Moving on with the like other Bestials though, and like what other things you can use them on. Using it when they try to Perfume Revive is not bad. The main thing is if you can take their Kaleido out of rotation, it makes it really awkward for them. Because they need to loop Kaleido like 4 or 5 times in order to really get to the max board, because they need to send Leo Dancers, they need to send extra names, they need to send things like Yellow Martin in order to keep comboing. So if you can just take their Kaleido chick out of rotation and stop them from sending the additional things you need, it's basically like hitting the things ahead of time, like preemptively hitting them. So that's a good point to hit it as well. One other thing to keep in mind is if they're already playing through a lot of hand traps, what they'll do is they'll get to Wolf as their key point, and they'll put one Gold Leo in their grave, or one Leo. What is his name? Leo Dancer, maybe? Yeah. They'll put one Leo Dancer in their graveyard, and then they'll activate Wolf Effect Diffusion. If you can chain in that one specific instance and banish their Leo Dancer, it's going to force them to fuse into whatever fusion monster that they can make at that point. So whether it's a Perfume Dancer or they're having to make Saber Dancer, it's going to take away those Lunalight names that they were planning on using anyways for their Liger, and it's going to make them summon some guy that they did not want to summon. You know, it's taking away resources from, so that's one neat interaction. One thing that is really cool about Bestials with this deck, though, is that usually Bestials are used later in turns to try to like diminish boards or stop them from adding additional things onto their field as presence. So if you think about Mitsurugi, you are never Bestialing the first thing they put in the graveyard. You know, we're Bestialing after they do already get some resources. If we think about things like Tear Lament, usually we're not Bestialing the first name anyways. We usually try to Bestial the second name. That was the key for that matchup. For this matchup, it's a little bit different. One thing with this deck is it has one card, exactly one card that restricts it, and it's the Silver Hound card that we talked about a lot. So it says, if this card is sent to graveyard by a card effect, especially Lunalight, blah, 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 you cannot special summon from the extra deck except Lunalight monsters while you control that face-up monster. Now, this is usually not an issue for them, right? But it's not an issue because they have exactly 2 ways of taking that monster that's giving them that restriction and getting it off the field. They can fuse with it, with Polymerization, Lunalight Fusion. If they have to, they can use Wolf, but using Wolf is very negative in resource advancement. So we're not going to try to Wolf with it if possible, but we're going to try to Poly with it. We're going to try to use Yellow Martin to bounce it back to our hand. That's the other way. If they start with send Silverhound, summon like a Gold Leo, right? Like say a gold deal, for example. Their main way of getting that free is either by fusioning with it or by using Yellow Martin. The way they're going to get to Poly is they are going to summon Kaleido. They're going to use Kaleido to send a Black Sheep, and they're going to use the new Golden Leo to try to add that Black Sheep back to hand. If you can Bestial that Black Sheep, stop them from getting to Poly, they're going to be locked. Even though they have 2/4s, they can't even make Baguska because they can't access anything except for Lunalight monsters. So being able to use the Bestial at that point to cut them off of Poly is fantastic. The other thing they'll do is with Yellow Martin, they'll try to bounce it to their hand. One thing to be aware of with Yellow Martin is that even if you chain a Bestial to Yellow Martin's effect, it's still going to resolve to bounce. So you have to preemptively hit their Yellow Martin, which I still don't think is a bad thing, because even if they have the extender to push through and like unlock themselves, kind of free themselves from their own restriction, we took their Yellow Martin out of rotation, which is fantastic to do. You know, it's definitely going to cripple them for the rest of the duel. Then we have Lancia, like for the side deck cards. Lancia is fantastic versus this deck. There's a lot of different things they can't use. I'm just going to drag them here on the thing so we can look at all of the things it kind of stops them from doing. Silver Hound Negation. It's going to stop them from doing that. The Kaleido Chick thing, this is something they're going to do a lot going second. This card randomly has a hidden effect that says, if this card is banished, you can activate this effect. This turn, your opponent's cards and effects cannot be activated during the battle phase. Basically, Tempies you going second. If we Lancia them, they can't do that. Moving on, we have Serenade Dance. They can't activate that for the rest of the turn. They have Wolf. They can't use Wolf for the rest of the turn. And then Lunalight Perfume. All of these cards here are going to be stopped by Lancia. It's really, really going to diminish the amount of things that they can do when it comes to playing the game. It also is going to kind of stop the effect of Masquerade. Masquerade has an additional effect that says you can discard, you can use your graveyard next time you fusion. If they're Lancia, they can't really do that. So getting to Liger is going to be really, really difficult underneath the Lancia. It's not impossible, but it's definitely hard to do. So that is something to keep in mind as to why Lancia is really, really mandatory in your side deck for this format, because it's hitting 2 matchups to the point where it's really crippling. Moving on, we have Gamma Seal, or like Kaijus in general. I think the Kaijus are okay. I really wouldn't side deck them, but I do think if your deck has a built-in Kaiju, whether it's Sky Striker or whether it's like Mitsurugi, I think it is worth side decking at least one copy of that. Let me see here. I don't even remember what this Sky Striker card's name is. It's like a Kaiju. Well, no, when I see him, I'll find him. There he is. There he is. This guy. But I think if your deck can play this, it should. Whether it's in the side deck, probably wouldn't main deck it, but it is going to be an out for Liger. I think that your engine should be aware that it's going to have to kind of take the L and play that one card just to out a Liger, just in case you can't stop them with hand traps. You have to have a backup plan. We have the Valor here that we talked about earlier. And then lastly, I've got Gamma and Delta. I put these in pretty much all the other like hand trap tier lists, or not hand trap tier lists, like how to beat videos. Gamma and Delta are going to be fantastic into this deck as well. Gamming on a Leo is almost better than imperming it because it takes the body off of the field. So even if they have something like Polymerization and an additional name to fuse with, that doesn't accelerate them any further because the body's gone. Delta can be used on the Wolf, like we talked about. If you Delta the Wolf, it is going to absolutely take it out of circulation and make it really, really difficult for them to get fusing again. You can also use this to kind of cut their turn off early. One cute interaction is that you are bringing in the Cyframe monsters and Lancia at the same time. This is not something that's really happened very commonly since like Tri-Brigade format with Gamma. But if you do draw both and you Gamma them and then you Lancia them, your cards aren't getting banished in the end phase. So if you're playing something like Malice, normal summoning a Chessy Cat is full combo because you randomly got the 2 bodies from Gamma to play with as well. So that's something that's really neat and cool to look at. But yeah, just like all the other decks, you can use these either early in the turn to try to stop them from playing, or you can use them later in the turn to try to cripple them a little bit more. I think the best point to do Delta is probably on their Wolf effect. You're going to try to get that stranded to where they can't get it back. Anyways, that's going to be it for the video. If you guys liked this type of content, let me know down in the comments section down below. I don't know if I'll do this for the events going forward in the future, or for the new formats, or for K9 and all the other decks coming out, but I need you guys' opinion. That way I know if you guys want to see these things or not. They're pretty low effort for me. I basically just give you guys my thoughts, my opinions on it, and show you guys a little bit of goo that some people are planning on doing for it. But I have to know, so if you guys could tell me, that'd be really appreciated. Besides that, if you guys wouldn't mind liking, commenting, subscribing, everything you guys already do, I appreciate it. And as always, I hope you guys have an absolutely fantastic day. Thanks. Bye-bye.